My week started on Monday with 4 of my wisdom teeth being taken out, so it was very painful. And I'm very pleased that it's going to end at the other end of that spectrum with the pleasure and the privilege that I feel in moderating this panel today of these esteemed panelists that we have. They're probably better known by @JamesMoore_org, @TonyClement CPC, and @CanuckFlack. But today I have to give you a better introduction than just that. Our theme for this conference, as you know, is moving forward. And when you think about moving forward, what could be more important than how technology is utilized to create more involvement by the public in our democracy? And that is the subject of our discussion today, technology and politics. So the first person I'd like to bring to the stage for this session is serving his 3rd consecutive term as the Member of Parliament for the Ontario riding of Parry Sound Muskoka. His dedication to public service spans 3 decades, including 8 years at Queen's Park. In the House of Commons, he has served on the front benches as both Minister of Health and Minister of Industry. He's become an authority on the application of information technology to the business of government. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President of the Treasury Board of Canada, the Honourable Tony Clement. Our next panelist was first elected as Member of Parliament for Port Moody, Westwood, Port Coquitlam, a suburb of Vancouver, in 2000. At the age of 24, he was the youngest Member of Parliament in British Columbia's history. He still looks 24, as I just saw. And he has been re-elected in every election since. He was first appointed to Cabinet in 2008 as the Secretary of State for the 2010 Vancouver Olympics and the Asia-Pacific Gateway. He was later appointed as Minister of Canadian Heritage and Official Languages. And in 2011, he was named Minister responsible for British Columbia, the youngest regional minister in Canadian history. He had become quite the expert now in the application of advanced information technology to the business of politics and elections. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Canada's Minister of Industry, the Honourable James Moore. And finally, our 3rd panelist is on Google's global public policy team, where he tries to keep the internet brimming with discovery and delight. In addition to privacy and data protection, he has worked on innovation agendas, launched science and technology strategies, planned for the copyright reform, and encouraged the development of intelligent transportation systems over a 15-year career in the Canadian public service. His firm is responsible for much of the technology which is changing how both government and politicians use information. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from Google, Colin McKay. Now here's our format for this afternoon. I'm going to have each panelist give about a 10-minute opening remarks each, and then we'll have a bit of exchange at the panelist level with some Q&As, but good news is they've accepted questions from the floor, so I encourage you to please think about some questions from the floor, and we'll be coming to you at the end. So with no further ado, let me please call upon Minister Clement to kick us off.
Everybody, and yes, we are live. I'm going to talk a little bit away from the platform here and just talk a little bit about something that I think is very apropos for this conference and for conservative-minded people to understand some of the changes that are going on. My remarks will be about how changes in technology affect how governments work and how they interact with the public. James can talk a little bit more about the political sphere, but let me talk about the public sphere. And this is the fun part of my address when I talk about this, because I get to be very dramatic. Are you ready for the drama, everybody? Okay, here we go. Since the dawn of time, since human beings started to organize themselves in ways which became society and involved government. Since that beginning, governments collected information and governments hoarded that information because it was their information, not the public's information. And what is revolutionary about today is that is being turned on its head. It is absolutely a kind of, I believe, positive revolution, that we have a movement around the world called open data. And what open data is about is basically big data involving government information. And we have, throughout the modern world, governments not hoarding information, not putting it under lock and key anymore, but pushing that information out and making that information available to who? To researchers, to non-governmental organizations, to citizens, and as importantly, to entrepreneurs. And this, to me, is a huge revolution in the mindset of government, but also has the potential to impact every aspect of our lives. Now, why is that important? It's important because it does a number of things. In the first place, it makes government more accessible and accountable to the public. The more information that can be pushed out, the more data sets that are available online, the more accountable we are as politicians to the citizenry, because they can do the research, they can acquire the information, and then ask key questions. So that's important. It's important as well because researchers have more of a wealth of information in order to do better research about our society. That's important too. And the third way it's important, I believe, is that it's available for entrepreneurs. And that, to me, is the key. You know, we're Canadians, and we all have, most of us have a smartphone by now. And those of us who do have a smartphone, because we're Canadians, have a weather app, because we're always wondering what the weather is going to be. Well, the information that populates your weather app comes from open data. That comes from Environment Canada and other sources around the world to populate that, and it has been put together in a clever way on your weather app. If you want to get from point A to point B using your map app, the geospatial data that populates that map app and maybe gives you the schedules for public transit in an urban area, all of that comes from open data. So this already has useful applications. What we're doing, and I'm very pleased to lead this initiative on behalf of the Government of Canada, is pushing out these data sets. So we have published at open.canada.ca over 200,000 data sets. Data from Statistics Canada, data from Environment Canada, geospatial data from Natural Resources Canada, data from Immigration Canada, from Health Canada, all available online, free of charge, available for use for research, for reapplication, and for our entrepreneurs for use to create other useful apps. So then the next thing that happened was, well, we've got all this data out there, and we want these apps to be available to make citizens' lives better on a whole host of issues. But who's going to create the apps? And the old way of thinking was, well, we'll get bureaucrat X14 on the 10th floor of some office building in Ottawa, and he or she's going to be in charge of creating these apps. We did something very different. I said, no. That's the old way of doing things. Let's get the private sector, get entrepreneurs out there creating applications for this open data. And so we created what we call a hackathon. It's like a contest. And we invited, for cash and prizes, and Google was a great sponsor of this as well, and OpenText and others, cash and prizes. We said, if you use Canadian open data and create a smart app. And we were hoping the first go-around we'd get 100 coders and people that are, like visual specialists and so on. Maybe if we got 100 people from around the country interested in this, creating apps, that would be a win. Well, we got over 930 people the first time we did this. This year, we've got over 1,300 creating apps, and the venture capital community is excited. They're interested. They want to help fund these entrepreneurs so that they can, of course, have a life creating new applications well-funded by Canadians for Canadians. It's a wonderful thing that's happening. And that's just one small piece of the open data revolution. There are over 60 countries that have signed up to the open data initiatives of the Open Government Partnership, which is a worldwide partnership on open government and open data. And I want Canada to continue to be the leader. I think it's important for the future of our entrepreneurialism, for our innovation, for our productivity, that we be leaders in open data. I have called open data Canada's 21st century natural resource, and I believe it to be true. I think that if we can capture the potential of open data, bring it to life, connect it to the other things that we're good at, whether it's oil and gas or new envirotech or agriculture, it doesn't matter. It can connect to all of these things and make sure that Canadians are world leaders in all of these different endeavors using open data. So that's the future. And we as Conservatives are always known to be ones who embrace the future, who believe that Canada's best days are ahead of us, not behind us. And that is what animates us as Conservatives, as part of the Conservative movement. And we do have to embrace open data as well, not only as a government, but also as a political entity as well, which I'm sure James will talk about from his vantage point as well. But I want you to remember, if this is the first time you've heard of open data, let this be a day that you don't forget, because since the dawn of time, it's been one way and now it's another way. And it's going to mean a great future for those who can capture the possibilities of it and the potential of it for Canada and Canadians. Thank you very much.